Hello everybody, my name is Ilya, and today we will be presenting how to make a plaque and a logo using CorelDRAW, ArtCam and PowerCut. This will be done lightning fast, which you will notice very soon. This whole entire process is done within 3 phases. The first phase is the graphical preparation. The second phase is preparing everything for the engraving machine. And the third and final phase is the drilling and engraving, also known as the cool laser that hits the metal and drills the wood. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and bless this mess we made. Cheers!
Hello again, I am Omar and we will now begin with the first phase, the graphical preparation. Here we can see how our colleague does the preparation. As an example, we will be copying a logo. In our case, it's our faculty logo. It is done in such a way that through a raster image, we copy lines of smaller images and letters. Everything must be copied. Actually, it must be converted from bitmap to vector images. They are converted because the machines for engraving and drilling themselves only support this type. Here you can see us making an exact replica of the logo, making the insides of the logo and fixing it up. The most difficult part was the book, which needed extra shaping and typing. After many trials and errors with the book, we will be saving the logo for further use down the road. Now begins the second part of the first phase. After we finally got the graphic vector, we will be working on a so-called mockup. It's a visual representation of the finished product, so that our client would have a general idea how the product will look like. Hopefully, we are up to the client's standards. Notice how our colleague uses different materials for the background. The backgrounds in this case are found online and if needed are cleaned or modified in Photoshop. Materials that are used are wood, plastic painted gold, and at the very end, perspex, or as we call it, plexiglass.
During work, the colleague noticed that the form doesn't fit, so he changes the shape from rectangle to a circle, then adds the bottom as a stand or a mount. The small grey circles you see here are used to add certain distance and are used to hold the plexiglass. The colleague takes the framework of the original and makes something of a blacksmith's cast. He paints it blue and uses it to cut up the original to give it a shape. Doing this work requires a lot of creativity and for someone to be quick on their feet. We then go ahead and modify and shape the wood and make it more presentable to the client. It is common practice to save everything in copies just in case. Now begins phase 2. Now that the mockup is finished, we have to separate everything in layers. The right circle colored in red is meant for the laser, while the blank frame on the left is moved on to the CNC machine. CNC machine means computerized numerical control. At the end we save everything as a PDF to be sent further into production.
And back to me. We open another program for technical preparations, in this case ArtCam. We take the frame we had from the previous program and get ready for work. This is all preparation for the phase 3. As you can see, we will now start setting up the thickness of the material, 24 millimeters, and choosing the tool we'll be using, in this case the 6 millimeter. And we'll enter the 3D simulation, put the detail in high, and start cutting. Now we will save this and use it for the second simulation. This is 11 times 3 size. We enter again, and this time we do it in more detail. We select the cutting direction. We select the tool, in this case the 6 millimeter, same as last time. We do the calculations. As you can see, the arrows sort of replicate how the cutting will go. We will then go and select a clearance toolpath. We will be removing 2 millimeters from this carving here, from this black. Thus we'll put the finishing depth at 2 millimeters. We will select the 6 millimeter tool again, and again do the calculations. And this is the direction the machine will go. This is strictly for convenience purposes, because no person can remember everything. Thus the summary is there. We will now enter the 3D view, go into the toolpaths, and go into the simulation control bar, where we will customize further. Here we put the detail at standard and play the simulation. But in this case it starts cutting the first 2 millimeters, and then we select the secondary simulation control bar, the second profile, and it starts cutting as we specified 4 layers. And that will be it. Now for the phase 3, the CNC, the computerized numerical control. This is more of the physical type of work, and we have to prepare the machine for cutting. As you can see, you need to switch the tools constantly, and you need to make sure everything is on tightly. It is, at the end of the day, very delicate work. And this is the beginning of the cutting. Just like in the simulation, you notice that the first 2 millimeters go off, and then we start carving in. Now to add the metal part, we are in a program called projekat. It's important to note that there are 2 colors here, the red and the black, and we set up the red for engraving purposes and the black for cutting. So the engraving will be far more detailed than the cutting itself. And see, the logo even resembles the red and the black here. We of course modify the speed, save it, and then we get to work. We will now see the fruits of our labor. But before we add the metal, we have to clean the wood. And now for the finalization of the project. As you can see, there is clearly a lack of gold here. It's definitely not because we're missing gold, but don't worry, it will be charged the same. And that's it. That's it for this episode of How It's Made. Have a lovely day.
And that's all, folks.